Today we're gonna sew the Sommar camisole, which is my newest pattern. It's this one that I'm wearing. I'm gonna make it in a white knit fabric made out of cotton with elastane. The first step is to measure yourself. So I'm gonna measure myself here. You wanna go around the widest part of your bust. And I am hitting at 34. Today's 33 and a half. And then you can check your waist. So mine is at a 27, which means that I am a size D in the size chart. So I've already cut out my top in a size D. Measure your full bust, choose that size, and then if your waist and hip have a different size, you can grade between the sizes. I'm not going to do that today, and it should fit you fine even if you are different sizes, because we are working with a fabric that is very stretchy, or you should be. But feel free to grade in between sizes if you need to. Okay, first things first is we're gonna do the side seams. So here I chose the crop top with the bralette that goes inside. I'm just gonna pin that in place. This is a pretty easy fabric to work with because it's lays flat. Sometimes you'll work with a knit where the edges want to curve up. And we're gonna do the bralette. Just pay attention to the back because these points are very subtle. So I have before put the neckline towards the hem. So just make sure that you don't put the back points downward, and then pin that into place. And then we're gonna sew side seams on the bralette and the top at a 1/4 inch seam allowance with a narrow zigzag. Okay, I'm starting with the bralette side seam. Sometimes when you start going on a knit fabric, you want to start a little bit in, not off the edge, because the machine can kind of like eat it up. Sometimes the fabric gets pushed down into the hole here and creates a big mess. So if you want, you can start like 1/2 inch in, 1 centimeter down, and then sometimes I just like flip it over and go from the inside basically and start like there and then finish the last part later. So it should look a little bit like that. Slight zigzag. So we just finished sewing the side seams, and the instructions call for zigzagging the edge. My fabric isn't fraying, so I usually skip this step, but you can totally do it if you want, or you can go over the side seams with an overlocker. Up to you. But I usually leave them raw. That's how I roll. And then step number 3 is measuring your underbust. So I'm gonna measure mine. It is at 29. So to make it snug but not too tight, I will take that measurement and minus it 1/2 inch, and then cut my elastic to that length, because then we're gonna overlap the elastic another 1/2 inch. So the total underbust measurement will be 1 inch smaller than your actual underbust measurement, and that'll make it feel really nice and secure. So I cut my elastic to 28.5 because we're going to overlap at that 1/2 inch at the to make it a circle, but it doesn't feel tight enough. So I think this also depends on the type of elastic you have. In this one I have what's called a non-wool elastic, which is stiffer, and I think this is elastic for like underwear. So this is a lot more pliable and softer and stretchier. So I'm like, where does it feel more comfortable? I think I'm gonna have to cut off another like 3 times 6 inches. So definitely try on your elastic and see how it goes. After you cut your elastic, you're gonna overlap it 1/2 inch, and then put a needle in it, pin, and then we're gonna stitch a box around that. So here I'm gonna use a straight stitch just to go around. down, pivot. So after that, we're gonna quarter it. So I'm going to put a pin here, call that the center back, and then fold it in half and find center front. I'm gonna put a little pin there. Then I match up those two pins and find the quarter points. Put one on that side. And then I want to find the quarter points of the bralette. So these are already the halfway points. So I'm going to find center front and center back. So I place the side seams on top of each other. And there in that fold is center front or back, I'm not sure. And then side seams on top of each other. Find that center back or center front. Okay, and then this tank top is reversible, so there's no front or back really. I prefer to wear the scoop in the front, but you can wear the straight in the back or in the front if you want. I have the wrong side of the bralette, which you can see because you can see the seam allowance. So I'm gonna put the pins over each other and then just use one of those to put it into place and take the extra one out. And then I have the side seam pin. I'm going to put directly on the side seam. Then I have the center front pin. Place them over each other. So depending on the size of your bust, the size or the kind of elastic you have, you might have it lay flat against the bralette, or you might have extra ease like I do here. So I'm gonna have to hold it taut while I stitch it into place so it doesn't create folds when I sew it. I'm gonna have to, you can, if you want to have, you can stretch it out and then place pins here, just so you know for sure that you are sewing with the right amount of ease. You don't want to stretch it beyond, like beyond where it goes flat. See, there it's flat. You don't want to go sew it while you're stretching it, because then you're going to stretch out the elastic. But stretch it just so it lays flat together. And now we're going to sew with the elastic facing you, and you're going to have the needle hit just outside there. And I think it's preferable to see just a sliver of fabric on the outside of the elastic, or none at all, but try not to get it on this side, because then you're going to see the elastic when it's all done. I'm starting just at a random spot at the side seam. It's flat here, so I'm going to put my foot down and I'm going to put it on zigzag at like a 4, width 4, length 3, I believe. And then if you have the option, I put the needle in the downward position so when I'm not sewing it doesn't fly out. And so you want to sew it, and I'm pulling a little bit here to keep the two layers flat together. But if I keep pulling here and not adding extra tension on the back, it's gonna go all wonky and it might not go forward because you're constantly pulling it away from you. So I want to put kind of tension front and back, or hold it into place, and you're gonna get a feel for this. It might take a top or two, but I kind of like put the tension in place and then hold it, and then I'll feed it with both hands to keep the tension, if that makes sense. Don't sew over your needle or pin. You can see I have like a sliver of fabric here, and to make them flat I'm giving it a little bit of tension, pulling it a little bit, but I'm also holding this one with my other hand, and then I'm feeding it through evenly. When you're all done stitching, it should look a little bit like that. And then you're going to flip it up so the fabric completely encloses the elastic. And then pin it into place all the way around. Kind of feel it so it's flat. So there's no bubbles here. And then this part can be tricky.
I'm a little tipsy.
Because if you have had to ease it in, it has that extra. So just try to find like center back here and then feel it with your fingers that it's flat. Put a pin in between here. I kind of have to stretch it out while I'm feeling and then pull it down so this fold lays nicely. Hold it in place with your fingers until you can get a pin. And we're gonna go over basically the same line of stitching once more. Put the needle down before I pull that pin out, and then I'm applying a little bit of stretch tension, hold it in place, and guide it through with both hands. Not pulling this way, not pulling that way, just applying tension and then guiding it through at the same time. It looks like this, and the right side of the bralette looks like this. Alright, I have my bralette. I'm going to turn that right side out, and then I have my bralette. And this one I want to do, see the seam allowance on this one, and you can't see it on this one. And I want to put that inside. I'm going to pin it in place because we are going to baste these two layers together. So I'm going to put some pins around here, just make sure it all matches up fine. So basically you can see where we're going. This is the top. When you look inside, you can see the bralette. Alright, we're doing zigzag again, as always. This time I'm doing the width at 1, the length at 5, because we're just basting these into place basically. And the reason we have a tiny bit of a zigzag is so that when you wear it, you're going to be pulling it over your body and stretching it out a little bit, so you don't want the stitches to snap. Here comes, I think, what might be the trickiest part for you if you haven't sewn a lot with knits or stretchy fabrics before, is attaching the neckbands, because it's kind of by feel. And you're gonna get a feel for it, but you're gonna line up. So you have your top, it's right side out. How are you gonna wear it? You cut these bias bands, I call them, just bands. And you're gonna take the long one, the one that's not labeled armband, the one labeled neckband. And yours is gonna be longer than this because whatever you have extra is what you're gonna put on the back neck. But you're gonna place it right side of the band towards the bralette side. And I let a little bit hang off here so I have something to start with. Line that up, all the cut edges together, like that. And then here comes the feel. You're gonna have to stretch it a little bit, the band, not the top. Stretch it a little bit and pin in place. Alternatively, you can do this while you're at the machine, how I usually do. But for the tutorial's sake, you're gonna stretch and pinch so you can see how much ease I'm putting into there. So I leave the last inch or two, I guess inch just flat with no extra ease. So that looks like that. And then we're gonna stitch this on the side, a 1/2 inch seam allowance with a narrow zigzag. Once again, you're stabilizing kind of with both hands to keep the tension. Try to make the cut edges line up perfectly. Okay, so that's what it's gonna look like when it's done. Then your second step, well, then you're going to repeat it on the back neckline. But just to give you a visual, then you're going to fold it so there's 2 1/2 inch folds here. It's going to come to just above that cut edge, and then you're going to fold it over. And you can pin that into place so it just covers the line you just sewed. So, like that. You're gonna have to feel it a little bit like that. Flatten it out, and then place that fold on top of the stitch you just did, because then you're gonna zigzag from the right side, and that is gonna determine your whole look basically. So you're gonna pin like that all around the neckline. I'm going to show you how I do the back neckline without pinning it. And also just because the start of this is a little bit tricky because the point isn't very tall or cute, so, but I still lay, this is the neckline here. Here's like the armpit, and here is the back neckline. So I lay it, this cut edge against that cut edge, and you see here, if you draw a line parallel to this edge, 1/2 inch in, it ends up, you know, kind of far down this armpit arm. That's how I feel like it's helpful to have this band extend further, because then you can kind of just follow the cut edge of the band and make sure you end up in the right spot. So you see that this is on the 1/2 inch line, and then these are lined up. So I'm going to start sewing all the way down there. And then once I get on the actual top, I can kind of readjust. So then I kind of go holding both layers. So if you want to do this, you can be brave and do it. I pull the band slightly and then put the top down. Pull the band slightly and then put the top down. The end here, you see I'm going to come out kind of right there because that's where the 1/2 inch parallel line is. Alright, here we are. So I'm back at the front neckline. I've pinned it in place so the edge kind of looks like that. It's a 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, basically. And I'm trying to cover the line I just previously sewed. So I'm gonna go back to a zigzag stitch. I'm gonna do a zigzag width 4, length 2.5. And make sure your needle comes close to the edge, but not outside it. You still wanna stay on the band. Your front neckline. Just gonna focus. This double fold makes it so durable and like secure feeling. And then I'm gonna go and sew the back neckline in the same fashion. So I'm just gonna fold it towards that raw edge, and then you can close it and go over it, just like the front. We've sewn the front and the back neckline, and then I'm going to cut off these bands in line with the armpit, just like that. And then this one, it's a little bit trickier, but like that. Now we're gonna work on the armbands. So we got the armbands here, and you know that because they have that little notch on each side. And I'm going to fold them right sides together, pin the short ends. Alright, I'm stitching this. I'm actually using a straight stitch. So what we're doing now is we're taking one of the armbands, doesn't matter which one, they're both gonna work, and you are going to, I think, turn it right side out like that, so you're seeing that, and then you have your two notches there and there. And these notches, you're gonna put the right side against the bralette that's on the inside, and you're gonna put this notch against the point, one of the neckband points, like that, and pin it right into place there. And then I'm gonna take the other armband point and put it against this neckband. And then you have all this ease, so I'm gonna stretch it into place, stretch it so they're flat against each other, and then once again, pinch it with your fingers, put a pin where you're pinching, and here you could do that again, stretch it so they're flat, pinch, put a pin in, and put one there too. Why not? This is making the armband tighter than the actual armhole, so it'll sit flush against your skin here. And then I'm gonna sew with 1/2 inch seam allowance from point to point. You don't have to sew the band, just in between here. I'm using a zigzag again, 1 width and 2.5 length. I'm gonna sew it at 1/2 inch seam allowance. So this is the back neckline, so you can see it's not a very acute triangle. Fine with a, or you can also use a ruler and draw a line there, but you can see pretty good where the 1/2 inch intersection is. Make sure these seam allowances are flat. So you've sewn both armbands to the armholes, armpits, and now you're gonna do the same thing that you did on the neckline. So I like to start where the seam is. I don't know why, just do. Fold that towards the cut edge, fold it once more, secure it with a pin, and then go towards the front neckline point. If you sewed like a bit more than 1/2 inch, you can just fold a little bit less, maybe 3/8, and then fold, and you should reach and be able to cover that first seam you did. The band portion, or the neckband, no, what's it called? Shoulder strap. Those, fold those. But now you have nothing in between, and then fold it again. And then you're just gonna go around and create straps in one go. I've pinned it in place, and I'm going to use a wide zigzag, zigzag 4, length 2.5, I think is good. Sometimes when I get to the end and I really want to secure it, I'll switch to a straight stitch and then go forward a couple, backward a couple. So I don't know, I just feel like it secures it better than a zigzag. Then we just gotta sew this one and then hem it and we're done. You guys, we're almost done. We just finished the armbands. Let's see if you can see how they look. Like that. And then inside we have the bralette. So it's attached like that. And then the last step now is to hem it. So you can try it on and see where you want it to hit. I know that I like my crop tops at 8-inch side seam. So I'm gonna hem this with a 1-inch hem, and that will make it 8 inches long. So yeah, we're just gonna fold the hem 1 inch toward the wrong side and zigzag right next to that little edge. The instructions call for a 1/2 inch fold, but I want it to be shorter, and instead of just cutting that 1/2 inch off, I'm just gonna make the hem wider. I feel like that feels easier for me. So that's about 1 inch. I'm gonna do a wide zigzag. Alright, we finished it. Now you can press it if you want with a little bit of steam, especially on the hem to make it extra nice, and on the bands, but that's not how I roll. Not for when I'm sewing with knits, I get lazy. So let's try this on. What do you think? Now the beauty of this is that you can wear it with a scoop neck front or a square neck.